Estamos en vivo. Hola, hola, hola. Buenas noches a todos. Soy Tasha de Tasha Teaches Spanish con otro episodio de, if you watched the show by now, you already know, otro episodio de Hablamos de Español. Sí, muy bien. Hey, everybody, this is Tasha Teaches Spanish with another episode of Hablamos de Español, which is We Speak Spanish. Our goal is to shine a light on those who are contributing to the diversification of foreign language learning. Because so often people think that foreign language learning another language belongs to a certain group. If you go to YouTube right now, you type in Spanish lessons, you're going to see somebody that's European American or Latino. And of course, a Latino person is going to teach us their language, but you don't see many black faces, African American, Black American faces that are speaking or teaching you. We know Ambi Gonzalez, we know Ricky de Bilingüe Blogs, but I want you to know that there are a multitude of people that speak Español, right? Hablamos de Español. And so that is our goal, to shine a light on those. And tonight, esta noche, tenemos a C. Quintero. Hola, hola, hola.
Hola, hola, hola. Gracias por invitarme. Yo estoy muy feliz de estar aquí con ustedes.
Muy bien, y es un placer tenerte. Okay, entonces, for you, the public, if this is your first time watching, gracias por venir y bienvenido. And if it's not, you already know what's up. We're going to start with an introduction, una introducción, and it's going to be completamente en español. And this gives you, the viewer, the opportunity to test your Spanish knowledge. What do you know? What do you not know? Right? Because most people know a little bit more than they realize, even if it's 3 words. You know those 3 words. Be confident with those. So let's see what you know. And then at the end, al fin, I we'll go ahead and we'll do the introduction again in English. But before that, I tengo una broma que yo pensé hace 2 horas. No es una broma, más o menos es un complemento. Complemento existe, es una palabra.
Sí, como
un comentario bueno.
Sí, como
un complemento. Ok, pero tengo algo para ti. Yo pensé de esta frase. Hace Quintero, Quintero lo hace.
¡Oh! Gracias. Me encanta. Bueno, lo voy a escribir. Me encanta eso.
Me encanta. Quintero lo hace. Porque haces muchas cosas y vamos a hablar de eso, pero
sí, quería las cosas muchas veces.
Quería mencionar mi idea antes de hablamos. Ok, ahora. All right, viewers, so now, the introduction. Ok, so entonces sabemos que tu nombre, Ace Quintero. ¿De dónde eres?
Bueno, yo soy originalmente de Chicago.
Ok, qué bueno. ¿Y cuáles son tus trabajos o tu trabajo? ¿Qué haces?
Bueno, la verdad es que yo creo que tengo muchos trabajos. Mi trabajo como de tiempo completo es que yo soy profesora de español. Yo enseño los niveles 1 y 4. También yo soy autora. Yo tengo muchos libros en español que son para las personas que están tratando de aprender el español. Generalmente los libros que yo tengo son libros que los profesores usan en clase, pero yo últimamente he visto que hay adultos que están leyendo mis libros. Hay una chica, por ejemplo, en Alemania, que ella leyó uno de mis libros. Ella se contactó conmigo por medio de Instagram y me dijo,
wow.
Tu libro, que yo estoy aprendiendo español. Entonces, si hago eso, también a veces yo hago presentaciones con diferentes escuelas, con diferentes grupos, pues todo que tiene que ver con enseñar, informar a los profesores, capacitar a los profesores. Y sí, son mis trabajos.
Wow, sí, por eso, otra vez, la expresión.
Sí.
Quintero lo hace. Ok, ahora, si tienes tiempo para pasatiempos, ¿qué son?
Bueno, en este momento, mis pasatiempos son, yo diría, bueno, ver Grey's Anatomy. Yo soy fanática de Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
Me gusta mucho. Me gusta, pues, el drama, obviamente. También me gusta leer. Yo acabo de leer 2 libros que fueron escritos por mujeres afroespañolas. Un libro se llama La hija del camino, y yo puedo incluir después, puedo incluir el enlace al libro, pero se llama La hija del camino. Y el último libro que leí fue Ser mujer negra en España. Entonces ahora en este momento me está gustando mucho leer acerca de las experiencias de las otras mujeres de ascendencia africana, cómo son sus experiencias, si están en España o digamos que si están en Colombia, en Ecuador, en Perú. Entonces ahora sí son mis pasatiempos. Y bueno, y escribir, me gusta escribir, entonces yo
Claro que sí.
escribo bastante.
Ok, muy bien. Parece que todos los pasatiempos son muy, o son ricos de educación, algo que, o cosas que alimentan la mente.
Sí,
Muy bien.
sí.
Ok, ¿qué más? Díganos de tu familia, mamá, papá, o si tienes niños, pero generalmente tu familia.
Bueno, sí, pues mis papás viven aquí en Chicago. Mi papá es del sur de Estados Unidos y mi mamá, ella es del norte de Estados Unidos. Ella viene de Chicago, pero su familia viene de la costa este. Yo me casé con un colombiano hace 17 años.
Hoy en día personas no están casados por un año,
Yo sé,
6 meses.
yo no sé. Bueno, yo creo que el secreto para un matrimonio equilibrado, que digamos, es calladita se ve más bonita. Es que yo me callo, porque hay mucho que decir a veces, pero yo me aguanto, ¿no?
Esto es muy difícil para muchas mujeres.
Sí,
No,
¿verdad?
no decir nada, sí.
No, es cierto, es cierto. Sí, y yo no tengo, bueno, yo tengo gatos, yo no tengo hijos, yo tengo gatos, pues mis hijos son mis libros literarios. Y yo creo que como que soy profesora, como que es parte de, no sé, siento que es esa conexión maternal que yo tengo con los estudiantes, creo que de pronto eso se satisfació, que digamos, ¿no? Pero tengo 2 gatos. Y sí, tengo un hermano, tengo 2 hermanos, tengo una hermana y tengo una familia. Tenemos una familia grande, pero dispersa, así que la familia que está más cerca, somos una familia un poquito más pequeña, ¿no?
Uh-huh. Ok, muy bien. Y comprendo completamente de cómo un estudiante puede reemplazar, no exactamente reemplazar, pero estar en lugar de un niño, porque en el mismo sentido tú estás poniendo cosas buenas en sus vidas y cosas como así, cuidando para ellos en una manera u otra.
Pero la
Comprendo.
diferencia es que los estudiantes se van a casa con sus padres.
Sí, eso.
Yo
Y
puedo
no,
hacer mi
y
vida.
no, no es necesario cambiar los pañales,
No,
pañuelos.
no, sí, sí, pañales.
Gracias, ok, sí. Más fácil, más libre. Ok, ¿qué más? Una pregunta más. So, last question to the viewers, hang in there. I hope you're catching some of our words. Here we go. Tu canción favorita en español y cantante.
Uy, pues la verdad es que yo tengo bastante. Bueno, tengo que decir que por ahora lo que estoy pensando pues, la canción que me alegra más.
Uh-huh.
Me gusta mucho la gozadera de la gente de zona. Me gusta como baila.
¿Cómo se llama?
Se llama La Gozadera.
¿Qué significa en inglés? Gozadera.
La gozadera sí, la gozadera es como bueno, gozar es como
To enjoy, right?
exactamente. Entonces, la gozadera más o menos, bueno, yo creo que, yo no estoy segura, yo creo que significa como una fiesta que lo que te da alegría, ¿no? Como la gozadera, gozando de la cosa.
Ok, más o menos es una canción feliz.
Sí, hay bastante, bastante.
Okay.
Hay muchos bailes como de origen africano, hay los tambores también. Ellos hacen una colaboración también con Marc Anthony y me encanta la voz de Marc Anthony.
Yo también.
Sí, y mi canción favorita de Marc Anthony es Barco a la Deriva. Me encanta esa canción.
Es de los 90s, ¿no?
No, yo
Cuando
creo
él
que
era
de pronto
joven.
sí, no estoy segura, la verdad no estoy segura.
No. Estoy pensando de Contra el Corriente.
Ok, no. Bueno, ¿Qué tiene que ver con algo? ¿No?
Sí, sí, pero cuando pienso de él, pues claro, hay vivir mi vida,
Ay,
pero,
me encanta esa canción.
pero una canción, no sé como populares, pero de su álbum hace 5 años, con Cambio de Piel, es una buena
Mm,
canción de también. Oh,
también
muy
me
bien. Ok, entonces, Marc Anthony, ¿es tu cantante favorito también o no?
Bueno, sí, más o menos. Es una pregunta muy difícil de contestar. Porque
Sí,
yo
sí.
tengo, no sé, yo tengo tantos artistas favoritos como, bueno, es como el hip hop también. A mí me encanta el hip hop, pero hay tantos buenos artistas,
Ujú.
pero no sé. Hip hop de pronto es más fácil porque Missy Elliott siempre ha sido mi cantante favorita.
La reina, la
La
reina.
reina, sí, la reina, sí.
No, no, pero comprendo porque cuando pensamos o cuando una persona nos pregunta, ¿cuál es tu canción favorita o tu cantante de los Estados Unidos? Es solo los Estados Unidos. Pero cuando pensamos de Latinoamérica, hay 10, 15 países, 1000 cantantes.
Sí, bastante, sí, 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 es cierto.
Okay. El fin, the end. All right, so that was great. And I hope you, the viewer, got something out of that. Stick around till el fin, the end, to see what you got, what you picked up. All right, so earlier, I'll go into y'all now. I gave her a little slogan because this is how I feel in my heart. It just happened to match. So AC, or in Espanol, Ace, is an author, and we're going to talk largely about that because I looked at her website, guys. Like, it made me so happy inside. I guess because I want to do things similar. It gives me, a goal or something to see and know somebody that's doing it. But it was just so nice. But so I gave her a slogan that says her name is AC Quintero, but Quintero does it. I said the letters that are her initials. I said is also a word, HACE in Espanol, which means to do. So the expression is like AC Quintero, Quintero does it. It may not make any sense now, but if you saw it written, it would click. But all right, so let's go on and dive in. So just like I start with everybody else, why did you even start to learn Spanish? What happened? Where did this come from?
Well, okay, so I have a very weird story about learning Spanish. I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit of feedback. Is that on me?
I don't hear anything. There's nothing on my end.
Okay, good. Okay, so I was working at Carson Perry Scott, which I think they went out of business, but I was a sales associate there.
And
And
I'm sorry, this is a store?
store, Carson Perry Scott. Yeah, it's a store in Chicago. Well, I just realized that you're not from Chicago. So
Nope.
I guess in other places it was like Dillard's. If you know Dillard's,
Yes.
Boston. It was like, yeah, it was kind of like the same like company. And so anyway, so I met this teacher, and he was a professor at a community college, and he taught Spanish, and actually I liked him. I was like, oh, he's kind of cute, and I was a senior in high school, but because I worked and I saved my money, and I was like, I didn't like to do like the other stuff that high school kids did. So I ended up taking my money and registering in this Spanish class at the community college. So after school, I would get on the bus and go to, I know my friends had no idea. And it was all because I liked him, Now, the funny thing was, turned out to be gay. So, but I know, see, listen, this is why I get to write good stories, because this stuff really happens to me, okay? So I ended up, I liked the class and didn't get the guy, but the language stuck. So
that is a very interesting beginning. Now, I've had somebody on here who said they learned out of interest of somebody they like, but not like that, because so this man was like grown and you were like 17, 18, and he was like 30.
Yes. Yeah, he was like, I mean, he had to, I don't know, maybe he was like 25 and I was like 17.
Oh, ooh.
But he didn't know. I mean, he had no idea. This was like la película en mi cabeza, okay? I was like making my own movie in my head.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, like, I mean, I should have known. Like, once I realized it, I was like, wait a minute. It was very obvious.
Obvious. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I just remember going to class and thinking like, oh, this is a pretty interesting language. I was like, it went from me like liking him to like, ooh, this is pretty cool. So, so that's how I started. And then the cool thing was, while I was at Carson's, there was this employee who he really liked Enrique Iglesias. And so what he ended up doing was he gifted me all of his Enrique Iglesias CDs. And so I was listening to Enrique Iglesias. This was like in the early 2000s. And I was like, oh my God, I need to learn everything that he's saying. I just love this music. And so that's what I would like listen to music. I would look up the words, and then I just started branching out with like other artists. I don't know if you remember, I don't know how old you are, but there was a music store called Coconuts. And it was like coconut music. Okay, so it was like Virgin Records. I don't know if you remember, like, okay. So it was like
I've heard of Virgin Records, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, so I went into Coconuts Music and I got this CD, and it was like this singer. His name was Camilo. He's actually a Mexican soap opera star. His name was Camilo, and I loved his music too. And I would listen. I would memorize everything. So here's the cool part: I would memorize all these like all these words to the songs, and I just was waiting for an opportunity to use them. Right. So when I was at work one day, someone one of the songs, I think that the verse was it was like por la noche no pude dormir, right? And I remember singing. So someone walked up to me at work and they said, Alicia, they spoke Spanish. They were always trying to help me. Say, ¿Cómo estás? Te ves cansada. And I was like, es mi momento. It's my time to say what I learned in the song. So I was like, por la noche no pude dormir. And we just had a conversation. I didn't know what the hell she was saying, but I was like, I said it. So that's kind of how I just started like I feel like I started just kind of gaming the language a little bit. Like I would listen to music, I would memorize things, I would read a lot. I read copiously. And that just really helped. It really helped me to learn the language and to gain like a really good appreciation. And because I have a photographic memory too, it helps so much. So yeah, that's kind of how I started.
That is so cool. So really, it sounds like you have whatever it is, Carson's to thank for your.
Yeah, but I became a Spanish teacher, so thank you.
That is a really nice. It's a nice, pure way in which it wasn't forced. It was just out of life interest, but you saw a way to connect it and dig deeper. So that is really cool.
Yeah, really and can I just say too, I always find this interesting because so I never took Spanish in high school. After that like 6-week class, when I went to college, I was like, oh, maybe I should take a Spanish class. And I find it interesting because when I was in my master's program, I would run into people, and I think this is one of the questions that you had too, and I got this a lot. I would run into people and they would always doubt. They were always kind of be like, how do you learn? Like, how do you speak Spanish? Mm-hmm. And I remember this one time there was this girl in my master's class. She was a Caucasian girl, and she was like, "Why is your Spanish so good?" And I was like,
"Is that supposed to be a compliment? Because it sounds like some doubt. You need to work with your words, ma'am."
Well, I mean, but this like happened to me a lot. Like this happened to me a lot, especially like in the master's program was like, I don't know, it's like 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, I learned Spanish. So she's like, did you take Spanish in high school? I was like, no. She's like, there's no way you could speak Spanish that well and not having taken it in high school, And I thought it was a compliment because I was like, hey, I took care of my business.
And I mean, in her mind it is maybe, but it's just so many layers when dealing with other populations. You have to be like, what are you really saying behind that?
You really have to work through it. But fortunately, and I've had a lot of incidences like that. And I just kind of learned how to just be like, you know what, it really is. I don't think that people initially mean like harm by it, I just think that they just don't know. And I'm just like, I try to use those moments to like educate them. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
that's kind.
Yeah, I use those moments to educate them because I do remember that there was like when I was teaching I was a Spanish tutor at my university, and it was really slick how I got the job. So that's a whole nother question. It was really slick how I got the job, but I really wanted to be a tutor, and I was really good at Spanish, and I had done really well in the classes, and teachers said great things about me. So what I decided to do was I said, I found out who the chair of the department was, and I saw she was giving a class that summer. So I was like, I'm going to take that class, and I'm going to be the best student, and then at the end, I'm going to give her my resume. And
Smart.
so, yeah, that was, I was just, and it's so funny because I was so young. I'm like, I don't even know, like, I don't remember anyone teaching me how to do this stuff. I was like, seriously, I'm just like, man, I must be like a natural hustler or something. So
I mean, what you tell me, you see a man of the store you like, so you decide to enter his class. And I mean, it's not stalking, but
But yeah, but you know what? Actually, I think you know what? Tasha,
right.
I am a stalker. Oh my God.
Because that's what you did to your professor as well.
That's
I mean,
true.
the chair. So it's your business. It's your
That's
business.
so true. Well, anyway, so I took the class and I ended up getting the job. Okay. Took the class, I ended up getting the job. And then later, I remember there was this one, well, there were a few like, there were a few Hispanic students that were like, oh, like, where's the Spanish tutor? And I was like, you're looking at her, and they're like, oh, oh, I know, like, you're the Spanish tutor. And I think, like, maybe, let's just say, maybe in today's world, it wouldn't, because now you have such, I mean, I'm not like technically Afro Latina, although my mom, her father was like half Mexican, but like our family, we're like African American,
I got you. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, but we do have kind of like some roots that we discovered later in life, and I do feel like, now people wouldn't be taken aback because they see so many like Black people speaking Spanish, and they realize that, like, wow, there are Black people in Cuba, there are Black people in Puerto Rico, there are Black people in Colombia, there are Black people in Argentina, there are Black people in Spain. They realize that, but because of the visibility issue, it was always kind of shocking. And so I remember going back to the whole education part. This one guy said, I was speaking Spanish. He said, wait, you speak Spanish? And I was like, yeah. He's like, but you're Black. And I was like, and at that point, I was like, so I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know that my color could disqualify me from learning a language. Can you explain that? And then he was like, he realized what came out of his mouth. He's like, oh, I mean, and I was like, I knew what he was like. He was trying to say, like, it didn't compute to him.
Because he's never seen a Black person, even an Afro Latino.
Well, exactly. Right. And and for him, he was like, oh my gosh, like that just goes against like everything that I learned, so.
But it is still good that you said something to him, because even though he didn't mean it in offense or whatever, it's good that he became cognizant of it by your response. Because, like, hey, okay, you didn't mean it, but watch your words, homie, watch your words. But I will say this too. I think it depends. You mentioned maybe there aren't as many, it's not as common to be surprised. And I think it still is, especially depending on where you live. So we had a guest on here from Illinois. Is it LaGrange? Am I pronouncing that right? LaGrange? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
So he was on here like 2 weeks ago, and he works in the court system. And he said he still gets people who are shocked, like, and even Latinos, maybe they're from an area where it's, all just brown folks and no Afro Latinos, and they're like, what are you doing? So it still happens. And then for me, I'm in Arkansas, where, there's white, Black, and they think everybody Mexican, even though they could be from Cuba, Puerto Rico, wherever else. But there's definitely a lack of that comprehension and that vision and understanding here. So I think it still exists. Depends on where you are.
You're right. Yes, you're right. And I think for me, because my circle is so diverse, I think one of the mistakes that I make is because I'm just so used to being around so many diverse people. So I just think like, oh, that's, people are learning everywhere. But you're right, everywhere, and people are just like,
because I'm just learning like the past 4 or 5 months of Afro Mexicanos.
Oh my gosh. I
really thought there were no Black Mexicans, because I've gone to Mexico.
Did you see the girl who's competed for Miss Mexico?
Yeah, Nayariti. She's from Naya something. So the name of the town.
She is from Nayarit, and I think her name is Blessing or something.
Yeah, that's it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So even before that though, because we're both in the Melanated Multilinguals group, right? On Facebook. So it's a lady in there, I don't know her name, but she, like, that's her life's work. Like, she appears to be an Afro Mexicano activist or something. She posts a lot of stuff.
Oh.
And that's where I'm like, ma'am.
What group is that?
Melanated Multilinguals on Facebook.
Oh, I'm not a part of that group, but I need to be.
Yes, ma'am. Well, yeah, please join. It's daily. It's activities, a lot of, fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of jokes, but a lot of eye-opening moments and information. So, yeah, I love it. Melanated Multilinguals. So it's a lady in there, and that's what she posting. So if not for her post, I still wouldn't know of any Afro-Mexicanos because I've gone twice or whatever, and I've just never seen anybody that looks like me, and then I'm guess I'm a little slow. I'm thinking maybe they didn't have slaves. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I'm just learning that. So I can see why
they didn't. I mean, they tried to, but they rebelled and they made their own free town. So they slaves. I mean, they probably had a few, but they were like, if you research the history of Yanga, like as soon as he got there, he was like, I'm rebelling. We're going to the mountains.
So that is
US, take my people with you.
But that's how they arrived, though, through the attempt to slavery, or is there another way Africans arrived there, or just through that attempt?
No, they brought them there as slaves, but I'm saying that like this particular
it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So you know what? Everybody talk about the Haitian, revolution. I never heard this revolution that was successful.
Yeah.
And the Haitian one wasn't, but anyway, I'll never hear that. So much to learn.
I know.
But that's the beautiful thing about Spanish. And I tell this to people in general. I'll tell people that learning another language is in your DNA, but especially for Africanized people or melanated people, however you want to word it, there's so many terms nowadays. But people of African descent, because our history really is worldwide. Being ripped from Africa and being dispersed everywhere. And then for me, it's important to learn, back to the DNA part. So when your ancestors were here or they landed in wherever, Colombia, wherever they landed, they didn't know their language and they learned it. Our folks here learned English, which is not our language. People in, Latin America learn Spanish. But also, I don't think people realize this. In my mind, Latinos or Afro-Latinos are our cousins because the boat just stopped in Colombia before it stopped here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So to me, they're my primos. So it's just so many reasons and so many reasons to learn, but also so many ways in which it is enriching.
Yeah. Sorry, I did a little fashion things. I'm trying to figure out because, like, for some reason, my eye is getting a little tired looking at.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. You're good. I'm not gonna hold you too long, but the conversation is just so interesting. I love it when it flows like this. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah, okay, we're just on question 2. So you already hinted at how you began learning, excuse me. But did you go through a formal process, several years of classes, or you still just kept learning organically through life experience?
So I mean, my husband's Colombian, and like I think that in the first 7 years, or maybe 9 years, because we dated for 2 years, I think we spoke a lot of Spanish, and I think that helped a lot, obviously, but I always sought other ways to expand my language, because sometimes people, like some of my friends, are like, "Oh, you're so lucky because your husband's a native speaker and you can speak all the time." And I say, well, the thing is, yes, that is great, but we talk about the same things all the time. So when you think about like expanding your language, I'm like, well, we talk about the same things. We're like, oh, how was your day? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's for dinner, whatever. And I just always sought more of like a challenge. So number one, some of the ways that I keep my language up is I love watching or consuming a lot of Spanish media. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts is, I actually have them right here. Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's so many podcasts, but I like Por el placer de vivir. That's by
Pleasure of Living. Okay.
That's a really good one. It's kind of like religious too. There's another one. It's called Todos Somos Sospechosos. It's like a literature. It's a literature podcast.
Ooh.
Spain.
Misterio.
Yeah, and then this is really funny. This is one of my favorite ones, and it's gonna sound weird, but it's called Secretos de un Hombre Superior. and it's really targeted to men, but I like it because so the speaker or like the creator of the podcast, he's all about like self-improvement, and I feel like he's just very straight to the point. Like in Espanol se dice ir al grano, you know, and he's very much like that. Like I feel like he's like, okay, this is why your life suck, because you don't have any discipline. So I
It sounds like what's that man named E.T. Eric something. It's a black motivational speaker, but he had you crying and saying you suck by the end. That's what he sound like.
No, but that's how this guy is, and I
Eric Thomas, I think.
Oh, okay. And I like that the episodes are very short. So he has some like the longest episode I think of his is like maybe 23 minutes. So they go from like 11 minutes to 23 minutes. So I like that because if you want to just get in a little bit of like Spanish for the day. Also, I always encourage people to I think sometimes we make learning a different language very complicated and we're like, well, I don't have time. And it's like, you know what? You just incorporate it into your day, you know? So yeah. So for me, for example, like I read the Bible every day, or I try to read the Bible every day. I have a Spanish Bible, and I'm like, I love my Spanish Bible more than I love my English Bible, because personally, I think that the Bible readings, excuse me, are easier in Spanish. It's like very straightforward, you know? And I like that Spanish has all these different tenses. So like, you know, like if you read a command, it's like, it's a specific, like they're going to use like a specific command. Whereas English, it doesn't really vary. It's like go there, and it's like the same verb. When in Spanish is like vayan allá, and it's different from to go, you know? And then like I like listening to a lot of self-help and motivational stuff. So I just find like different YouTubers. I like, the other thing I really like too, because I like writing. So I found like some YouTubers who talk about writing and formatting, and they do it all in Spanish.
Okay.
So that really helps because I already have the knowledge in English about like outline and all this stuff. So it's like when I listen in Spanish, I'm just like transferring that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I recommend. Oh, and sorry.
Okay. I'm not a telenovela person, but due to the other guests we had from Illinois, I've been recently watching Caso Cerrado.
Oh, Caso Cerrado. I can't believe she's still on. That is
Caso Cerrado.
And her singing, girl. I was like,
that's not her in the intro.
That is her.
I thought it was. It kind of sounded like a man, but then I'm like, her voice a little gravelly. So yeah. But it's still on. And I had to recommend it to some of my students because obviously it's not the most enriching TV, but I like it because it is everyday people, different accents, not everyday topics. Some of those topics be a little off the wall. What you say?
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm vibing with you. I'm saying that's a good point.
Yeah, like I'm listening to regular people. Now the cases, I'm like, is this a joke? But I think it's like watching, like if you like trash TV, kind of, it's like you're learning. You can tell yourself you're learning something while you watch it. So
no, okay. That's good. Yes.
And let me give you. Hold on, I'm gonna have to plug in my computer. Let me give you another podcast. Shout out to my friend Gabriela Calvi from Tejas. She has one called Buenos Dias Salud. And last I remember, there were episodes every Tuesday. It could be different now. Buenos Dias Salud. She's on Instagram, Facebook, all of that. So great podcast. Of course, dealing with La Salud, health.
I will check that out.
Hey, Gabriela, if you're watching. Okay. So let's keep going. Man, it's already been 34 minutes. Okay, so obviously when I get through all of these questions, you already talked about how others respond when you speak Spanish, European Americans. How about Black people, like your family, your friends, or another Black American when you're out? How's the response then?
It has been mixed. I feel like sometimes, like, it's been kind of mixed. Like sometimes people are like, oh, you speak Spanish, And I mean, I don't really remember having any like negative reactions. I don't really remember having any negative reactions, but I mean, sometimes I feel like people, I have at times felt like othered, like people are like, oh, you're not one of us because you speak Spanish, you know?
Ridiculous.
Yes, I have felt like that. But I will say this though, this is a true story. This happened to me. I went to now my professors were Cuban and Puerto Rican. And so when I learned Spanish, I think like
Excuse me, your professors of a Spanish degree program. What program are you in?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I'm talking about of my master's program. They were Cuban, they were Puerto Rican and Cuban.
So what was your bachelor's in?
My master's was in Latin American literature and culture.
Your bachelor's.
Oh, my bachelor's was in Spanish and secondary education.
Okay. Did you have to learn as much Spanish for that, since you were just learning how to teach it and not necessarily diving into the language? Was that fully immersive or not so much, and you got more Spanish on the master's level?
I definitely got more Spanish on the master's level. Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, up your story. So your professors were Cubano, Puerto Rican?
Yeah, my professor was Cuban. And one of the things that my husband points out to me too, he says, I notice when you talk to people that your accent adapts to who you're talking to. And so I kind of like would imitate like my professors because that's how I learned things. So I was in a restaurant one time, went to a Cuban restaurant, and this older guy, he leaned over to me. He's like, ¿De dónde tú eres? You know, and I'm like, oh, yo soy de aquí. He's like, ¿De dónde son tus padres? I was like, mis padres son de aquí también. And he looks at me, he was like, maleducada, qué vergüenza. I know, he thought I was denying like my Hispanic roots.
How dare you?
And I just was like, I remember sitting there because I was waiting on my food. It was fricassé de pollo, my favorite Cuban dish. And I was like watching this like telenovela, it was on Telemundo. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait to get my food and get out of here. Like this guy.
You didn't want to explain to him? You didn't.
I was just like, I was so shocked. I was just so shocked that he was pretty much saying I was trying to pass as an American. And I was like, I am an American. So I always think it's really funny. And I think because when I talk to the waiter, like maybe I probably like emulated some of the, you know, her like speaking tendencies or whatever. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, this is weird.
Whoa, but that's so, and I've heard that a couple different times from different guests we've had, but that just shows and proves that you're really, you know, doing well and it's sticking. Yeah. And you know, I've never had that pleasure. I've told people, like, people will say, how do you know Spanish? Or Latinos or, you know, regular United States citizens, and I'll say, oh, soy cubana, but I'm lying, obviously. But then I'll go right back and say it's a joke. I just like the culture. But nobody's ever been like, eres de Panama, no? Nobody's ever really thought it. So I'm probably not, I need to get better on my accents, I guess. All right, so next up, we're going to go ahead and dive into Tu vida como una autora. So how did you take, guys, I'm definitely putting a link to her website in this in the caption for this video. How did you just go from I love Spanish, I know Spanish, I'm gonna write novels? And I mean, guys, I don't mean she has like 3 books. You know, some people they are author after one, and you are. I'm not insulting you, but she has I don't know, after a quick scan, I say 20 minimum.
No, I have 10 books. I have 10.
Oh, it looked like 20 to me. So.
I have 10.
But still, and let me ask you this. Well, I guess it's 2 questions. So number 1, since in this moment I don't want to forget, are you done, or are you just gonna keep turning them as they keep coming, or you think it's over?
Well, you know what? I just published a little short story the other day called El Chico Misterioso. It's like it's like a psychological thriller, you know. It's super short, you know. I just really enjoy writing, and so I think as long, like for me, I just feel like strike while the iron is hot. So as long as I have like these stories in me, I just want to like, you know, I want to write. I want to write about more like ambitious topics, you know. Like right now, a lot of my topics are kind of focused on like what students are learning. I mean, they're good stories. They're really good stories, and the kids really enjoy them. The books have been really well received and well reviewed. But I kind of feel like I want to like branch out now and just maybe write write for adults now, you know. So that's kind of like that's one of the projects that I'm thinking of, because I like to have very like complex situations that are not necessarily like adult, but I think something that like adults would kind of like get a little bit maybe understand better. And I want to honor the fact that adults are more mature, because a lot of times, you know, the literature out there for people who are like learning Spanish, it's like kind of like children's literature, right? And I'm like, man, you got to bring some drama, you know, you got to like, you know, you got to bring it. There got to be some.
And let me ask you this, because where is that book? Right here. So when you say a lot of them are not centered on adults, so I guess from what area? Because you know they translate books all the time, right?
Oh, right. I mean, those are different. Yeah.
In what way, or guessing what? Where are you getting that from? Not saying you're wrong, but what's your perspective on most of them are kind of lower level juvenile?
Right. So like some of the books that I've seen like on Amazon, like Spanish, like beginning story, like Spanish beginners. Like a lot of times, like maybe like the cover looks a little like, you know, infantile, you know.
I got you. Because somebody just want to learn, they're not gonna jump to this. You want something that's for beginners, but it's a grown beginner and still not too much. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So it would be like something that's kind of at their level, but compelling enough to hold like their interest, you know?
I got you.
Yeah.
So there's a man, I don't know if you follow him, Juan Urrutia. We're releasing his episode soon from Colombia, Lord of mercy. And he has a YouTube channel called Yo Hablo Español Latino. That's the YouTube, that's the Instagram, it's thanks to Facebook too, right? It's all up. And I like this, I'm connecting dots here. He teaches beginner Spanish through very dramatic stories and their short stories. And it's verbal. So like I listened to one of them and it was about this couple and the woman and the man was cheating or abusive. So the woman went and shot him. And I'm just like, it blew my mind because
that's the type of story I want to write.
Exactly. Because connecting to your point, it especially even in college, especially in academia, but outside academia, when you're learning Spanish, they teach you the nice stuff, like everybody's happy and kind and peaceful. Right. But that's not true. Right. So I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I do have, I'll say this, that one of the things that the teachers and also students like about my books, actually, can I bring one really quickly?
Yes, ma'am. Do you have sharing screen capabilities on your end?
Oh, no. I have it right here. I'm just going to give you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I should have had these with me, but
all right.
So I have like different levels. Okay, so I have like my level 1, my level 1 stories. Like one is called La Clase de Confesiones, and it's like kind of like a love story, like classroom crush, whatever. And then I have another one that's Como Salir de la Zona de Amigos, which is how to get out of the friend zone. I would like to do now. That one is for like it's like for level 2 Spanish, and I want to do something like that for like adult stuff. You know, how to get out of the friend zone. So, but these, I'll show you, these are the ones that have been popular with students, but also with adults. So this is Las Apariencias Engañan, and this is Appearances Are Deceiving. And it's kind of like what you were saying with Juan. It you know, it's about like it's about a couple that, you know, it's a couple, and the girlfriend kind of finds out that the boyfriend is not being forthcoming, that he's pretty much cheating on her. Okay. And so there's a whole story around that, but the father, and this is the second book, this is the follow-up, it's called El Armario, which actually was like Skeletons in the Closet. So as she's discovering things about her boyfriend, the boyfriend's side chick is discovering things about the boyfriend's father, who's like this mad scientist who's like, you know, killing people and taking organs and like all this stuff. Yeah, and it culminates in the third book,
The Shadows, or is it Shadows?
Yes, La Sombra, which is, it culminates with like the craziness of the love story, but then how like the father is like in cahoots with like these aliens and they're like stealing souls.
Oh my God, even deeper.
Yes, but I'm telling you, so the kids, this is the series. Oh, wrong way. Hold on. This is a series. The kids like it, but I've recently gained some adults who have like who read these books, and the funny thing is that they're all written kind of, I have a few series. I have this series and I have another series, and they're all written like as standalone. So like if you read like this book, you will feel like the first book is kind of already included, not already included, but the like the major plot points. And then like with the last book too, as a matter of fact, some people, they didn't even know that I had that the last book had 2 previous books. So I'm glad that they're like written like that, but just with the new interests, you know, of adults, I'm like, okay, I like have something here. So I want to keep writing, and my family really wants me to write these books in English. They're like, we want to read them. But I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I'm as strong as a writer in English as I am in Spanish.
Wow, that's a whole conversation in itself. But hold on, I don't want to forget my thought. What genre, listening to the transition of that trilogy, because it sounds like it goes from like a romance-ish to, I don't know, drama, then to sci-fi. So like there are, you know, levels. So what would you say are your primary genres, or do you just do it all?
I think I do. I think right now, I feel like I do have some like rom-coms. You know, I have a few like romantic comedies. I think I really like psychological thrillers. I just finished one actually that I'm going to be publishing soon.
Yay!
It's called La Pesadilla, the nightmare. And it is a psychological drama. Like I read it and reread it, and it's actually at a higher level too. So I think that it's at a higher level, and it deals with a lot of other stuff, like, you know, post-traumatic stress syndrome, kind of like mental illness, and then aliens. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff.
Now, what is your thing with aliens? This is the second alien book. This is from the X-Files. Where is that coming from?
Okay, so my friend who read the book, who read the manuscript, she was like, this made me think of X-Files, and I've never seen X-Files. And here's a weird
thing.
I know, but this is a weird thing. I'm actually not a sci-fi person. So I don't really watch sci-fi, but I like writing sci-fi. And I did a little bit of like research. And one of the things that I found is that they said that like writers who are not familiar with certain genres, that they actually excel better at those genres because they don't get trapped.
It's boxed in.
And boxed in and with the different rules and things like that. And so, and like, I feel like my imagination just kind of pushes me forward, you know, like one of the things in this book, for example, something that I just kind of, I always feel like I'm trying to solve problems. So let me see, I'm looking for the picture now. Oh, so one of the cool things about this book, I don't know if you can see, but this is the alien. This is the alien, and he's a shapeshifter.
I said, like 2 humans to me.
Yeah, 2 humans, but one, his fist is going through him. And again, like, I don't know anything about shapeshifters. I didn't even know that's what it was called. I just realized that I was just like, at this juncture, I was like, okay, this, like, the alien has to do something that the humans can't do. And I was just trying to figure out how to show that. And I was like, oh, maybe he could put his fist through his, you know, abdomen, you know. And later I was talking to somebody about it. He was like, oh, that's a shapeshifter. I was like, wait, what is that again? Okay, thank you.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. I asked it, but I ended up veering off. Just why did you end up becoming an author, period, especially for Spanish? Just what's the origin of this?
So the origin is, as a Spanish teacher, I would get a lot of these books are called comprehensible like input books. So they're books that they have really good, they tell a good story, but they tell a story with a fixed set of vocabulary words and structures, so they don't have to like keep looking up words, right? So it's very familiar to them, it's very accessible to them. So one of the things that I realized is that a lot of the books did not feature Black characters.
Wow.
And I just felt like a lot of them and these are the ones, not to like this, you know, not to say that they were all like this, but the ones that I had, they just seemed to like always have the same, like, oh, this kid lives in the suburbs and has a family, whatever. And I was like, I'm from Chicago, you know? And I was like, I like my kids, they need something with a little bit more
Some grit.
some grit. Exactly. And so I set out like the first novel that I wrote. Well, actually, I mean, my novel. Okay, the first novel that was published wasn't the first one I wrote. So I'm just gonna go with the first one that I published. The first one that I published, it was like about a Black kid in school who just had a crush, like had a crush on this girl, and the teacher wants to play matchmaker. And the funny thing is, like, that happened to me when I was in school. My teacher, he was always like, no, 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 that kid is out of your league. Go with that kid. And
let me guess, the little girl, the alien.
no, she's not no aliens in this.
I know, I'm just busy.
Well, you're giving me an idea for a sequel. So like I just felt like they needed a little bit more, like, I don't know, picardía un poquito, they just needed something more. And so I ended up publishing this book. And the funny thing was, so this is for people, I want to say this for people who have like a dream, or people who want to like do something, but like there's always other people saying not to do it. Yeah. When I was going to publish this book, I remember reaching out to like different companies, and because I just didn't know how it worked. I was just like, oh, let me just, and I remember I reached out to this one place, and they were like, and I think, I don't know who it was. It was someone who worked there, employee who worked there. And the employees say, oh, well, you know what? You can just forget about writing, because like these other companies, they always write books and people like those companies. So you should just forget about it. And I was just like, okay, so you don't want to carry my book? That's fine. I mean, I was just like, okay, you don't want to carry my book?
All you had to say was no. Don't worry about my dream and my goals. Just say no and hang up the phone.
Right. But it was so funny to me, like looking back, because I just didn't let that bother me. I was just like, I'm going to find a way. And I ended up self-publishing, and, and then like afterwards, came other books. Like I remember this one book, I don't have it here, but I'll tell you, it's called El Escape. It's one of my best books. And it is about, it's very mafioso. It's very mafioso. And there's like a little bit of violence, and like a spoiler alert, the police, they're actually the mafia, And
that sounds like real life.
That sounds like Chicago, girl. I was like, yeah,
that sounds like regular life to me.
I know. And I remember people were like, after they read it, because again, I feel like a lot of people were just used to consuming a different type of like literature. Mm-hmm. And some of the teachers, they were like, oh, this is like too dark for me. They were like, oh my gosh, like I don't think this is gonna go well. I don't think people are gonna like it. And it did take a while for it to catch on, but now it's like literally my number one seller. Like people and teachers, I get so many like emails and DMs from people. They're like, oh my gosh, this book is so good. And I'm not saying it because I'm the author, but like this one book, and I love all my books, but one of the things that I like about that book, El Escape, is that every chapter, it's like an adventure, right? So it's like every chapter ends and you're like, oh my gosh, like you're like, they're not going to be able to get out of this. And then it's like something happens, like, oh my gosh, how did they get out of this? But they just got into this another, So I like the way that it flows, and my kids really enjoyed it. I read it with my students. I always take my name off so they don't know that I'm the author. And I do that so that they can like criticize and talk about like, and I remember they were talking about some of the images, like the illustration. They were like, look at this kid's hips. Like, who drew this?
Oh, you do it, the illustrations too?
I don't do the illustrations. No, but there was one illustration that was just a little bit off. It's okay. But girl, they went to town. But they liked the book. So anyway, I guess to answer your question, I think number one, representation. I wanted to just have things that I was interested. I wanted my kids to read things that I thought was interesting and that they thought, was interesting as well. And I also wanted them to see, like, not all of my books have Black characters necessarily, but I definitely wanted to make sure that, I have Black characters. And one of the things I will say too about my Black characters, because people have asked me about this, they're just characters. So they don't come with like, there's no like racial, like, oh, they're struggling with this like racism, they're struggling with this. They are just like people that go on amazing adventures and they live their life and they do things. And I think that that's very important. I did have people at one point ask me, they were like, well, why don't you talk about racial things in your books? And I'm
excuse me, interrupt you, but that can be overdone and it can distract the reader because, outside of dealing with oppression and wrongdoings, we do have regular everyday occurrences in lives. And so everything can't, and I would say shouldn't be social justice. Like what it's in Black Lightning, it's in this, it's in that.
Right.
And sometimes it just distracts from the regular, I'm a regular person story.
Right. Yes, and that's what I wanted kids to feel. I didn't want them every time a Black kid read a book that's just like, this kid is battling racism. I want the kids to be fighting aliens and doing, and I don't know, punching people. Not what
just living regular life.
Just regular life, and so and I think that I have accomplished that. And if I feel the need to like write something that, if it comes naturally from my heart and not just because people expect me to write it because I'm Black,
exactly.
You're typecasting me. Hello. Exactly. Then I will do it, but right now that's like not my focus. So.
Well, we only have 5 minutes. This has been so nice. And I'll probably ask you 5 questions, but I do want to dig into more into the author life. See, I don't know anything about writing a book, publishing a book, anything, even in English. No, so I have a couple different questions. So hopefully we can get them in these 4 minutes. The issue with publishing. So you self-published.
Yeah.
So what's that? It's probably a long conversation, but can you just talk about the publishing process? Like you just Google the number. Hey, I got a book. I need to meet with you.
Amazon, actually, so Amazon has it's called KDP. And it's like a self-publishing platform. And when I started, it wasn't KDP, so they switched to KDP. So the platform they had was called CreateSpace. And it was just, personally, I thought it was like easier to like navigate. Like this one is a little bit more difficult and the customer service is not that great. But it's a pretty straightforward process. So I really just learned as I went. I was just like, okay, like I put a book out there and I messed up 100 times. Okay. And I had to reprint 100 times. But at the end of the day, I kind of got the hang of it. Cause I'm not good with like dimensions, so I just do trial and error. I don't
wing it.
I wing it. And it just comes out nicely. So I'm like, and I just save everything that I did for, the previous book. But yeah, that's kind of what I did. So, you can self-publish. I mean, there are a lot of different publishing companies out here as well, right now.
But when you were saying you were trying to get picked up by a publisher and didn't work, you self-published. So you're saying you tried to get picked up through a publishing company through the CreateSpace program? Or CreateSpace is when you decided to self-publish.
Yes, CreateSpace, which is actually KDP now. I decided to do my self-publish. Now, right now, I am actually working with a educational company. The company is called Fluency Matters, and they sell. They have quite a lot of books, in the whole realm of comprehensibility and just being comprehensible for students and very accessible to students. So I've been working with them, and so I'm looking forward to see how this partnership is going to blossom.
So that is my question. How does it work when you're trying to get into a company? You just you find them on Google and you call them and say, I got a book. How does that even work?
So, I mean, I think that with the company that I work with, I think it's very niche in the sense that it's dedicated to like educational resources. And so it's more for resources for teachers. So I really don't know, like outside of sort of like, my little industry, I really don't know how it works. But I do know that I have a friend, her name is E.M. Lacey, and she's an African-American author and her books are amazing.
So is this what authors do? Just give initials?
Well, you know what? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, her name is E.M. Lacey.
Yes, ma'am.
And she actually does a lot of self-publishing as well. And one of the things that we talk about, one of the things that we like with self-publishing is, I think we just like the freedom, you like the freedom and So there is a lot of freedom, but I also think I think working with a company is also good because you get to learn. You get to learn from other people, and it's not such a solitary process, So luckily, I am having, I guess, having my foot in both worlds, and I definitely see the pros and cons of both of them. So
this is gonna be my last question about being an author. I think we'll see where the conversation goes. Selling to the market. So, do you find yourself selling more to Americans who want to learn Spanish, and then to in American publishing companies, or are you selling, worldwide in Mexico and like? I guess, where's your audience? How did you get them? How did you enter these markets? Because I would imagine it's hard enough in general to sell something to the market of where you live, but then this is applicable to any Spanish-speaking country. So are you having to enter international markets? Hope my question makes sense.
Yeah. So I think, the base of like my market, I think it is the US, because a lot of schools and teachers, teachers, they really like my books, and they like just having not just my books, they like books in general for their students. And I've just been fortunate to be like one of the authors that they kind of host in class, I guess. But I have recently, I would say this year, I have noticed that like I have had some like, sales or whatever in like Germany and France, because I have books in French as well. Australia, and most recently, like I got an order through my website from Thailand. So I know, I was like, there's a Spanish program there. So yeah, it is kind of like, I feel like it's growing. But because I am a teacher and I'm like in the whole virtual learning world right now, I don't have as much time to like advertise and do like, you know what I mean? Like if I like maybe like during the summer, I can like focus on like, different markets. But yeah, for right now, I would say mostly US, but I am seeing like other, like other countries kind of come into the mix.
So how are you even getting a school to buy your stuff, like to use you for their program? Is it a long business conversation? They just know you and say, "Oh yeah, we'll buy them." How does that even work?
Yeah, it's actually social media. Like I just know, like I've been on Twitter, and I've been just very active in the teacher community, and it actually was because of my books. Because once I published my first book, La Clase de Confesiones, teachers just started picking it up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, my kids love this book." And so it just started spreading. Like I remember one time my coworker, she sent me a text message, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in this Spanish group I'm in this Facebook Spanish teachers group, and they're talking about your book." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," So I think it's just like, I think it's word of mouth. It's one of those things where you just create like an authentic, good product, and then people just like it. And so I'm just very fortunate that people can that the stories resonate with them. And I think also just like a lot of my books, I feel like have parts of my middle school experience, and I think that that's something that kids like really relate to. Like they can relate to having a crush on somebody and being a stalker. Like actually,
now wait a minute, everybody can't relate to being a stalker. Wait a minute.
Wait, you know what? Check this out. I just realized that my so the book that I'm telling you about, La Clase de Confesiones. Okay, this is a real quick story. All of my students love this book. So I taught it I taught it for my Spanish 1 like 3 years in a row. Okay. So the first 2 groups, they were like, "Oh my gosh, we love this book." They're like, "We're on the edge of our seats. We don't know what's going to happen next." The third group that reads the book, like the third year, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this kid is so creepy. He's a stalker. Oh my gosh." I was just like, I'm so glad they didn't know that I was the author, because they were just like, "This book makes me feel uncomfortable." Like, why does he sit and stare at her all day? Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what have I done? So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that stalker thing is just in me.
It is. But how you accept it and you move it on about your business.
Yes.
I could ask you 1,000 more questions about being an author, but I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna ask you about just a little bit how you met your husband, being from Colombia. We're gonna go to the introduction. Revisit the introduction in English, and then I'm gonna allow you to publicize, you know, your website and whatever else people need to follow. Okay,
Sweet.
so how did you all meet with him being Colombian? And I do agree with whoever was like, oh, you're so lucky to have a Spanish-speaking mate, but you already explained the other side of that. But I used to tell myself I wanted a Latino man that looked like Romeo Santos, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all, but it's okay. But yeah, just how did y'all meet?
Okay, so first let me just say that a lot of my Spanish came from my hard work, because a lot of times people are like, "Oh, your husband's Colombian." That's
they try to play you off. Yes, ma'am. That's true.
That was my hard work. Okay, we actually met in church. We met in church in a college ministry, and yeah, we met and we just were really good friends. We really liked each other, but we were like kind of like shy about it, you know. And then a mutual friend noticed that like he liked me and noticed that I liked him, so it was like, okay, well maybe you guys should date. And then we dated for 2 years, and we're like, okay, let's get married. Like, I love you, you love me, let's get married.
y'all started young. That's nice.
Yeah,
so did he speak? I mean, I guess he had to speak some, but he spoke English, right? He was like,
he spoke perfectly, because he actually went to a very prestigious bilingual school in Colombia. He went to a British school in Colombia. So when he came here, his English was like, it was immaculate. It was good.
And what brought him here?
He wanted to go to college. So his parents actually sent him here to study. He had an aunt that was in Chicago. And so he came and he studied, and he became an engineer. He got his bachelor's, and then he just not recently, but at the same time I was doing my master's about six years ago, he got his master's as well.
Yay! That's nice. That's a nice story. Yeah. College sweethearts. Okay, so now we're gonna go to your introduction in English. Sure. And like I started off, I said, well, we know your name is AC Quintero, and where are you from? I don't think I asked you where you're from. I don't remember.
You did. I'm from Chicago. Yeah, I'm from Chicago. Okay. Born and raised from Chicago.
And earlier you mentioned that I'm not from Chicago, and I'm not, but I was born in Dalton, which is like 30 minutes outside of the city.
Yeah, my grandmother lived there.
Mm-hmm. So I have family that's still there in, well, that's a suburb, so I guess Maywood, but then a couple in actually the city of Chicago. So yes, ma'am. Okay. Awesome. I once or twice a year.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
Next up, your job or jobs, and for you, it's definitely jobs.
Plural. Yes, I am a Spanish teacher. I teach levels 1 and 4, and I'm also an author. If you've been watching this, you've seen some of my books already. I'm an author, a presenter, and a mother of cats, and a fan of Grey's Anatomy.
That's right. You did mention that in your pastimes, and that's the next question. Actually, what are some of your pastimes since you are so busy when you have time?
Yeah, so it's watching Grey's Anatomy. I love Grey's Anatomy. This is my second time watching it, and second time I realized I just was like, oh my gosh, like this person is so horrible. I can't believe I like them. But anyway, I like to write. I love writing novels and short stories. I didn't mention this in Spanish, but I also like to journal. But yeah, that's it. I mean, I like work out. I used to play soccer before my back kind of started giving me problems. I work out and do other things, but I don't do anything like knitting. I feel like all of my habits are very cerebral. Like I like reading.
And that's why was my comment, things that feed your mind.
Yeah.
That was my comment. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Tell us about your family, which you already told us about your cat family, but just your family in general.
Right. So my mom and dad are from, well, my dad is from the South. He is from Mississippi.
All right.
My mom was born in Chicago, but her family is from like the East Coast and other places as well. And I have brothers and sisters, like kind of like all over. We're dispersed, but we we come together, and we're a small family when we do come together. So yeah.
Okay. And the last question was your favorite Spanish song and singer.
Okay, so I mentioned La Gente de Zona and their song La Gozadera. I like that song, La Gozadera.
Look this up. I'm listening.
Yes. And I like Marc Anthony. I like Marc Anthony. He's pretty cool. I like his voice. I like his swag. He just like swagger is just amazing. So super huge fan.
I'm gonna listen to this afterwards. When I hear Gente de Zona, all I think about is bailando. Bailando.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, I know they came out with a song a couple months ago, and it's like a little animated. The video was like animations of them, so I'm familiar. Just I don't know them too well. And speaking of Marc Anthony, did you see him in El Cantante?
Oh, I don't know if I
The
watched
the
that.
rendition of what a story, a biopic of Hector Lavoe, the Puerto
No,
Rican
I
singer.
need to see that.
So
No.
please do. It's a good movie. It's he and J Lo, go figure. And they play, and you know what I say Hector Lavoe. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, classic. Like to me, he's El Rey. Well, I won't say El Rey, but un pionero, the pioneer of salsa.
Okay.
And he had a beautiful voice, great stories, but a tragic life. And the thing is, Marc Anthony plays him in this movie, and they both look alike because Marc Anthony cool and all, his face a little different, in my opinion. So he played the heck out of that role with Hector Lavoe, and it made me like him even more as an artist.
Wow. Okay.
El Cantante is a deep, and Hector's songs are deep, like, woo! Please look up Hector Lavoe.
Okay, we gotta see that.
But anyway, so that's that. Okay, well that's right. So now, as we come to a conclusion, which I'm so sad, maybe we should do a part 2. Just where can people follow you? We already mentioned the books, and of course, I'm gonna put the website in the caption.
But I sent you an email tonight too. I sent you an email with like a lot of little.
Yes, ma'am, I received it.
Thank you. Awesome. So on Instagram, I am AC Quintero. So A.C. Quintero. Facebook, I just started a Facebook group called Teaching AC Quintero, Teaching in the Trenches, and I included the link in the website. My novels website. So I have a blog and I have novels, and they're also connected. So if you go to one, I think you can go to the other. But it's acquinterobooks.com. That is my blog, and it also links to my my website where I have a lot of my resources. And then that website is just like, let's say if you're just like, okay, I heard Tasha talk about her website. I want to see her books. I want to see what this girl's really about. You can just Google novels and resources by AC Quintero, and you'll go right to the site. So those. Oh, and on Twitter, I'm Clase Castellano. And again, that'll be included in notes. I started these accounts like at different times. Like now I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many different names. I need to bring them all together. But that's just,
I'm telling you that could be your name for all of them. I said no, Quintero lo hace. Boom.
Oh, I like it. I know. Like
across the board.
I'm gonna post that on my Facebook tomorrow, and I'm gonna join that group, Melanated Multilingual.
I'm gonna join a group. You just mentioned about teaching in the trenches, and you said it's some other group in general for Spanish teachers. What was that one? Some other Facebook group for Spanish teachers?
Yes, I'll send you the information. I'm a part of it.
Please do. And the final thing, because I do so many interviews, I forget. Didn't we meet through a woman named Samantha? Is that how we connected?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I think this woman named Samantha sent me your information. But anyway, whoever connected, I could be wrong. But
last name B? Is her last name B?
Brineco. That's not right.
She follows me. Okay, she follows me.
So she doesn't even know you. I thought she knew you. Samantha Briceño Perez.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, she follows me. I know her.
Oh, that's who connected us. So if you're watching this, gracias, Samantha.
Yes.
So we went to school together at ASU. We were in the same program. She's always been a sweetie.
That is so amazing. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, how did this happen?
I get people reach out to me all the time. So I was just like, hey, because like one of the reasons why I wanted to come to your program is because you're talking about like, Black women who are, or just like Black people in general who are speaking Spanish and learning the language. And I just think that that's just so beautiful because I think that that's beautiful. And I think that like that representation really needs to happen. One of the things that I did not tell you, and I cannot leave this program without saying it, but when I was learning Spanish, I met this Black guy who learned Japanese. Okay. And he was at some fair I went to. I forgot what it was. It was a fair, and he was telling me that he spoke Japanese fluently. He traveled to Japan. And I was like, how did you do it? Because I'm learning Spanish. He said, you have to make Chicago your Spain. And when he said that to me, it was just like that. It was like, ooh. So that's why I started like really trying to find ways. And a lot of people used to ask me, they would say, "Oh, did you study abroad?" Because like my Spanish was so advanced, and I was like, "No, I didn't study abroad." And people could, well, I did later, but before people would ask me, and when I studied abroad, it was just a month, so I didn't stay like extensive time. And people thought I did, but it was just that advice that he gave me. Like I was like, when I go to restaurants, I'm gonna just talk to people in Spanish. I'm gonna go to like, places where a lot of people who speak Spanish go, so that just
Yeah.
grocery stores and just learning little by little.
Like you're bringing that world to you. Like you're bringing Latin America into Chicago, and that's great. And that's really easy. I wouldn't say easy, but definitely accessible in a place like Chicago with so much diversity.
Right. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Miles gracias. I can't say gracias enough.
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed this. I appreciate you. And definitely, guys, I know you gained something out of it, but please patronize with AC. You already know where to go and follow and look. And that's it. El fin. So buenas noches a todos. Bye.
Adiós.